If you believe that paranormal events deserve to be explored and shared, then the audio stories of the paranormal is the show for you. New episodes are released weekly on Sundays. Some stories are true, some stories are fiction. You decide which is which. Join us. You will enjoy it. Okay, let's learn something. In 1883, Henry Ziegland broke off the relationship with his girlfriend. Out of distress, she committed suicide. Her brother was so enraged that he shot Ziegland. Believing he had killed him, he then turned the gun on himself and committed suicide. However, Ziegland was not dead. The bullet only grazed his face and lodged in a nearby tree. In his dreams, Ziegland frequently encountered that brother who swore that he would kill him yet. Some years later, Ziegland decided to cut down the tree that had stopped the bullet. Unusually, he decided to blow it up using dynamite. The resulting explosion propelled the bullet from that fallen tree into Ziegland's head, killing him. Could it be paranormal? Welcome to Audio Stories of the Paranormal. You can find us online at theaudiostories.com. I'm J.B. Simeon. Thank you very much for joining us. I think you will enjoy it. The previous story was told to set the theme for this episode about could it be paranormal. Our next experience comes to us from member John K. It's called The Haunted Highway. Okay, let's learn something. Before he retired in 2017, my father was a Washington State patrolman for 30 years. Early one morning in March 2000, he was patrolling one of the highways that passed through the Cascade Mountains. It was about 3 in the morning and it was snowing. In his headlights, he captured the image of a young girl. He estimated that she was about 10 years old. She was walking along the side of the narrow highway alone. Thinking that something was wrong, he hit his emergency lights and turned the car around to check on the child. She seemed oblivious to his approach. He called her to stop, but she continued moving until he physically restrained her to check on her condition. When he got next to her, he could see that she had dried blood on her clothing and in her hair. Also, her clothing was torn and dirty, and she was missing her shoes. She was shivering from the cold, and she felt like ice to his touch. Using his flashlight, he held her at arm's length and made a quick physical assessment. He determined that she was not in need of urgent first aid. As he checked her out, he asked her, what was she doing out there? Where had she come from? What happened? She didn't say anything. However, she pointed back the way she had come. He thought perhaps she was mute, so Dad knew something was wrong. He wrapped her in a blanket and put her in the back of his patrol car. He drove in the direction that she indicated at an emergency speed. He called his headquarters to give the medics a notice to meet him and pick up the girl. The girl was not talking, just continuing to point forward every time he asked her a question. In less than 1 minute, he approached the bridge over a steep ravine. He noticed that the guardrail was damaged and there were skid marks indicating a car had gone over the side. He asked the girl, "Is this where you came from?" She said nothing, but she continued pointing forward. He thought that she must be in shock because she was so calm. He got out of the patrol car. At the bottom of the ravine, he could see a car overturned and damaged, with its lights still on. Quickly, he called in the situation and he asked for help. He got a rope out of the trunk of his car and a first aid kit. He attached the rope to the anchor point on the back of his bumper and he rappelled down to help the people in the car. The girl was locked in the back of his patrol car for safekeeping. In the bottom of the ravine, he discovered a couple was trapped in the car. They were both unconscious and appeared to be badly hurt. He remained with the car through the recovery operation. When he came back up to the highway, the couple in the car, the man and the woman, had been taken to the hospital by the medics. He noticed that the back of his patrol car was empty, and he assumed that the little girl had also been taken. He was sitting in the patrol car writing up his portion of the police report. He knew the name of the driver from the auto registration, but he needed to confirm all the identities of the people in the accident. So he called the medics, and within a few minutes he was able to confirm the name of the driver and get the name of the passenger. When he asked for the name of the little girl, the reply was, "What little girl?" It turns out that the little girl was not with the couple, and also the medics had not picked her up either. He knew that no one could get out of the back of a police car unless they were let out by someone. Still, no one at the site recalls a child being there but him. His first sergeant asked about the child too, because he had reported that she led him to the wreck in the initial emergency report. Since they couldn't find her, he filed a description of her in his report, and to this day she is still listed as an unknown child. Days later, the accident report for the driver of the car was published. The driver and the passenger claimed that they swerved to avoid a small child in the road who suddenly appeared in their path. Dad began to think about that child. Something was not adding up. She had not actually led him to the wreck, as he recalled. He had noticed the wreck while following her directions. When he asked her if she had been in the accident, she continued to point forward. If she didn't belong to the couple, then who was she? How did she get out of the back of his squad car unassisted? Why was she injured and barefoot? Where was she going when he stopped her? And finally, where was she taking him? It's months later, June 2000. The snow is melting in the Cascade Mountains. The State Patrol gets a phone call about the discovery of a small child's body. It was found partially buried in the snow. Since it's in Dad's area, he responds to the call. The cold snow preserved the body. When Dad gets there, he sees immediately it's the same little girl that he picked up that night. She is dressed as he remembers. She is still missing her shoes. He was overcome with a wave of sadness. He cried for her like she was his child. The medical examiner estimates that she had been dead since December 1999 and was undisturbed. In March 2000, when he first encountered her, she would have been buried under 5 feet of snow. Dad realizes that she was found only 2 miles from the site of the accident where he had locked her in his patrol car. He wonders, that March morning, was her ghost trying to take him to where her body was buried in the snow? Alternatively, if she was alive in March, why didn't she seek help at the site of the accident when everyone was there? The medical examiner held her body for months. They never discovered her identity or how she had come to be out there. Our family was the only people at her funeral. It was my dad who paid to bury her. She was laid to rest in a beautiful long dress with matching shoes. Dad says, from the time he encountered her, she has become a fixture in his dreams. They are always together on that highway. She is in the back of his patrol car, in silence, pointing and urging him forward to a destination that they never reach. We will have a short commercial break here, and when we return, we'll learn about 2 spells for improving your love life. Welcome back, Paranormals. Try these 2 spells to improve your love life. To find your true love, use this magic spell. Soak one of your socks in rose water. Dry it out and put it under your bed. Then nightly send out your thoughts about your true love for a month. Then burn a red candle at sunset while thinking more about the object of your affections. Repeat this for 7 nights. You may have some results. Next, to attract someone you like, do this. Pick a half red and a half green apple when the moon is 3 days past full. Breathe on the green side and rub it with a red cloth while reciting this verse. Fire sweet and fire red, warm the heart and turn the head. Kiss the red half and give it to the object of your desire. If they eat it, they will fall under your spell. Let us know how that works out. For a summer, I worked as a security guard on a private estate in upstate New York. The estate is 1,000 acres and has its own private lake. In the center of the lake is a 1-mile-long island. Local teens like to sneak onto the property and have parties on the island because it's so remote and has a sandy beach and is a really nice spot to hang out. My boss discovered that a bunch of locals had spent the night on the beach. The bonfires were clearly visible the previous night. He said that they had a drunken party and had gotten out of hand. Several fights had happened. The next morning, he assigned 2 of us to clear off the island. That means we had to remove any lingering people and clean up their mess. We took the Zodiac and were on the island within 5 minutes. I drove the boat right onto the sandy beach. Trash was everywhere. We cleaned the site, then we searched the 1-mile island for more trash and lingering people. Our major concern was ensuring that there was no one stranded or in need of medical help. So we took our first aid kit, some water, protein bars, and a portable transport litter in search of the island. As we went along, the day was getting hotter. Around 11 a.m., we were bug-bit, sweating, and tired, but we were done with the searching and ready to leave. The entire time that we were moving in the forest, I felt that we were being watched, and we could both hear voices whispering. I had been in the island many times, but I'd never been so spooked. When we got back to the beach, a sudden thunderstorm came on, and the sky darkened, and the lake got too choppy to safely cross, so we put the tarp up and waited out the storm on the beach. We were still edgy because we could hear the disembodied voices on the beach, too. I had a feeling that they were talking about us, talking among themselves and talking at us also. On the edge of the beach, in the water, was a body. My partner rushed up to the body and pulled it out of the water onto the beach. This was not the body of a local teen, This man was dressed in old period clothing. His eyes were opened and his body was waterlogged. His shirt tore off in my partner's hands when he pulled him ashore. Whoever this man was, he'd been dead a long time, without decaying too badly. But there was nothing we could do for him except bury him. Now the lake water was churning. The strong wind was sweeping up the waves. I had never seen the water so troubled. Giant bubbles were being released under the surface. We could smell the sulfur gas released by the bubbles. Then my partner noticed things floating in the lake. Those things were being pushed up onto the beach by the large waves created by the giant bubbles. It was human remains, decomposing bodies. The waves had deposited 3 groups of these remains on the beach, and we could see more floating on the surface of the lake. The stench was overwhelming. They were not the bodies of local teens. These were people dressed in period of clothing. We didn't know from what period, though. The lake was giving up its dead, and the air had turned cold also. We could see our breaths turn to steam as we breathed. My friend was very religious. He said that hell was giving up the dead and that this was a sign of the end times. He fell to his knees and started praying. I checked our body. Using a stick, I poked at one. They were decomposing, but appeared to have only been in the water for a day or 2. I tried to use the cell phone to call our boss and tell him what we were seeing, but there was no visible signal available. We always had a signal on the estate. The guy who owned the place had positioned cell antennas all around just to ensure we had a strong signal. Then the whispering got louder. We could understand what the voices were saying finally. Stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with us. At this point, we panicked. We pushed the Zodiac into the water and started the engine and took off, holding on as best we could. We hit a large wave with too much speed and went flying out of the boat. We both landed in the lake. The Zodiac continued on without us. If we had not been wearing life vests, we would have drowned. For what seemed like hours, we floated among the decaying bodies and the windswept waves. The current in the lake pushed us back onto the island. We were cold and exhausted when we landed, but we could still hear the voices. We huddled together to keep warm under a large tree as the day turned to night. The night got colder, but the bugs continued to attack our exposed flesh. We spent those long hours wet and shivering. The voices continued to taunt us. They were urging us to harm ourselves or, at times, harm each other. There was movement all around us. The storm continued until the very early morning. Then it ended, and the voices stopped too. Early that morning, we heard our boss and another co-worker calling for us. We emerged from the woods where we heard them calling. They put their boat ashore, and we climbed aboard. We described what happened to us about the bodies and the voices, but they were gone. The boss thought that we were lying. He suspected that we had been wave-hopping during the storm, lost control of the Zodiac, and landed in the water. That day, I quit that job. I've never gone back to the island. We're going to take a commercial break here, and when we return, we'll learn about Lincoln's ghost. The White House, home of U.S. presidents, is reportedly haunted by the spirit of Abraham Lincoln. The first person to report that they actually seen Lincoln's spirit in the White House was First Lady Grace Coolidge. She said that she saw the ghost of Lincoln standing at a window in the Yellow Oval Room, staring out at the Potomac River. In the 1940s, Winston Churchill was visiting the White House, and after a long hot bath in which he enjoyed a good scotch and a Cuban cigar, he walked naked into the adjoining bedroom where he was staying. There, he encountered the ghost of Abraham Lincoln standing by the fireplace warming himself. Mr. Churchill, never at a loss for words, calmly said, "Good evening, Mr. President. It seems you have me at a disadvantage." The ghost of Lincoln just smiled at him and vanished. Also during World War II, during her visit to the White House, Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands heard a knock at her bedroom door one night. When she answered it, she saw the ghost of Lincoln wearing his top hat and his frock coat. She fainted. I can't blame her. In the 1960s, President Johnson reportedly spoke with Lincoln's ghost. He asked him, "Mr. President, how do you handle an unpopular war?" Lincoln reportedly replied, "Don't go to the theater." Mr. Lincoln is not the only spirit that haunts the White House. There are more ghosts. His son, Willie Lincoln, who died in the White House during the Civil War, was seen by several staff members of the Grant administration in the 1870s. The ghost of President Andrew Jackson has been seen lying in his bed in the Rose Room. He's said to have a guttural laugh that was heard in the White House in the 1860s when Mary Todd Lincoln claimed he used to stomp and swear in the White House hallways. The ghost of President Thomas Jefferson has been heard playing his violin in the Yellow Oval Room. He has company there in the presence of David Byrne, who once owned the land on which the White House stands. He's been seen and heard in the Yellow Oval Room also, and I do wonder if those two encounter each other there. The ghost of First Lady Doubting Madison is believed to protect the Rose Garden. First Lady Abigail Adams still hangs laundry in the East Room. The White House staff claims they can smell wet laundry and the scent of lavender in that room. President John Tyler haunts the Blue Room. There he is seen proposing to Julia Gardner, his second wife. President William Henry Harrison haunts the White House attic. He was the first president to die in the White House. An unknown British soldier died during the War of 1812, still roams the White House grounds holding a torch. And finally, this is a sad, sad one. Mary Surratt, the daughter of Anna Surratt, bangs on the doors of the White House pleading to see President Andrew Johnson. She's there to beg a pardon for her mother. Our final story for this episode is called A Scent of Perfume from member Anna D. When I was a kid, my parents bought an old boarding house. My grandmother lived on the bottom floor. We lived on the second floor, and my parents rented out the third floor. The couple on the third floor was very quiet and kept to themselves. We would see the man all the time, but he told us his wife stayed in the apartment because she had a fear of going outside and a fear of people, so I never met her. My bedroom was on the second floor next to the main stairwell. When my bedroom door was open, I could see the stairwell from my bed. I was lying in my bed a few days after the couple upstairs moved in. I observed a lady walk past my room and take the stairs up to the third floor. I was surprised, but I quickly realized that it must be the wife of the man living upstairs. I wondered where she was coming from, but I didn't think any more about it after that. About the same time each night, that lady would pass my door on her way up to the third floor. She wore a pleasant-smelling perfume. Sometimes I would wake up and she would be standing at my bedroom door watching me. I assumed that she'd been watching me sleep for a while. I'd say hello to her and told her my name, but she didn't respond. She just backed out of the doorway and walked up to the third floor. I thought it was odd, but I didn't make anything of it. Occasionally, she would also leave flower petals soaked in her perfume on my pillow. I would find them in the morning when I woke up and smile. It seems that she liked me. Within 2 years, my grandmother passed away. We bought the apartment building and moved out of the old house. The couple upstairs moved out around the same time that we did. My parents sold the house to a friend who made it into his single-family home. A few weeks after the sale of our old house, the friend came to call on us at our new apartment building to have a discussion with my parents. I was in my room, but I could hear everything they were saying. "You didn't disclose that the house was haunted," the friend said. "Haunted? It's not haunted. What are you up to?" my father asked. They went back and forth like that for a while, and then the story came out. The friend said that you didn't say anything about the ghost woman who walks from the second floor to the third floor each night up the stairwell. That struck an alarm bell for me because it dawned on me then that he was talking about the woman who I thought was our upstairs neighbor. Since their family was in that house alone, and she was still there, it proved that I had mistaken a ghost for the woman living upstairs. I went into our living room and I told my parents about seeing the ghost pass my room every night. I told them that she never did anything scary, just walked from the second floor to the third floor. Since the friend had also seen her, they accepted the story and some compensation was offered to smooth over the dispute. The new family stayed in that house for years, and as far as I know, the ghost is still haunting the place. Well, all right, you paranormals, this concludes another episode. Thank you to all the community members who shared their stories. If you'd like to comment on the stories in this episode, or if you have paranormal experiences that you'd like to share with the community, please email me at feedback@theaudiostories.com. You can also submit your story through the homepage on the website of theaudiostories.com. Next, if you enjoy these stories, please help the community grow by sharing them with your family and friends. How, you ask? Well, it's easy. Visit the audiostories.com website, locate the story that you want to hear, and press play. It's that simple. Next, please visit our new subreddit at reddit.com. It's called r/paranormals, in honor of all you paranormals. Again, that's r/paranormals. I've set up that subreddit as a location for the community to communicate with each other and to post our paranormal experiences for discussion. You can also find us on Facebook at ASP Podcast. Again, that's at ASP Podcast. Next, when you're on our homepage, you will find links to our merchandise store where you can purchase cool swag and help us continue to produce the show. Remember, you are our main source of support, and I thank you for that. Finally, about 2 weeks ago, I asked veteran podcaster Dave Jackson to review the introduction to the audio stories of the Paranormal Podcast. He offered me some hard-hitting and useful ideas that I have attempted to integrate into the show. If you'd like to hear his ideas, The link to his show, Podcast Radio, is in the show notes, and we are the episode for this week. Now, it's worth your time, and you will learn something and be entertained. Again, that's podcastrodeoshow.com. Podcastrodeoshow.com. A link will be in the show notes. Well, this concludes the show. I thank you all for listening to Audio Stories of the Paranormal. I'm J.B. Simeon. I'll see you next week with a new episode. Until then, be aware, be cautious, and take care.